In September of 2006, Doug Johnson was walking on the beach, thinking about his friend of 30 years, the murdered one-time DJ, Stephen B. Williams.
And I see this light on the beach. I thought, now what can that be? I dropped my cell phone. And it had landed face up, and the panel was lighting up, and I walked over to it, and I picked it up, and it was Ken Clark, Detective Clark, calling to tell me that they had arrested Harvey. It was a real great sense of relief. It was almost indescribable.
Which is perhaps where the movie version of this story would end. But real life is not quite like that. For all the suspicion of Stephen's friends, the murder case against Harvey Morrow was rather weak. No evidence sufficient to prove that Harvey shot Stephen and dumped his body in the ocean.
We were looking for Stephen's DNA on the boat, knowing that his death was caused by a gunshot wound. It was pretty obvious that there should be something that said, this is where it was.
But there wasn't. No blood, no gun, no significant fingerprints. What they needed, couldn't find, was something that put the two men together on the far side of Catalina Island, where that current would have caught the body, carried it round to the spot where boaters saw it floating face down in the water. They hunted everywhere for Harvey's GPS, but they never found it. Months went by, Harvey sitting in jail, no luck for the investigation now. And then a phone call. It was the commandant of Harvey's yacht club.
He says, I found a handheld GPS in the library of our club.
The commandant told them someone in the club had found the GPS, wrapped in a napkin and hidden in the back of a club library cabinet.
And he says that cabinet is in a position where Harvey Morrow always sits and reads all the time. And he showed us a Garmin C60, which exactly matched in the way it looked, all the manuals that we had recovered months earlier on that yacht.
Here it was, the device they searched for on the boat and couldn't find.
And he said, you need to look at the data that's in this GPS.
Amazing thing. The GPS preserved in his memory in almost infinite detail its very last trip, which was as follows. May 4th, 2006, around 2 p.m., the GPS headed out toward Catalina Island, went to the backside, where it seemed to putter around aimlessly in the middle of the night, then returned back to the dock, 6 a.m., May 5th. That little device seemed to pinpoint the place and time of Stephen's murder. But how could detectives be sure that GPS belonged to Harvey and was on his boat? And then, what do you know? Luck again. When Harvey bought the GPS, he took a friend.
I was with him in the car when we picked it up, and it was such a cool GPS. I've got one myself.
That GPS was a pivotal point in the investigation that really kind of sealed this whole case together.
But though the GPS evidence told detectives where Harvey's boat was the day Stephen was killed, how could they be sure Harvey and Stephen were together on the boat at precisely that time?
Electronic data is fascinating nowadays.
Oh.
Very fascinating. Our cell phones, we can follow that signature. We were lucky again.
Lucky this time because of Blackjack Cell Tower, Catalina Island, where both Harvey and Stephen's cell phones pinged together, just where the GPS said they would be. After which Stephen's cell phone went straight to voicemail, and Harvey sailed right back to his dock the next morning, where he was late for a prearranged fishing trip with his friends.
They basically said he looked disheveled. He looked as if he had been up all night. He was not himself.
One question left. Exactly what happened on that fancy boat, the last moments of Stephen B.'s life? Doug remembered Stephen was angry over Harvey's handling of his money.
He had said that he was going to have a come to Jesus with Harvey. He was going to confront Harvey about the money.
Did Stephen confront Harvey over his lost fortune? Is that what led to this?
We believe that they were both on deck, and he walked up behind him and just walked up, put the gun in the back of his head, and pulled the trigger, which can explain the lack of blood evidence. And he just pushed him right over, or he fell over.
It took 5 years and over 30,000 pages of evidence to build the case against Harvey Morrow. Most of it hinged on a financial motive, all of it circumstantial. The detectives felt confident about the case they had so carefully assembled, while Harvey all the while maintained his innocence. And then, the very first day of the trial, the bombshell they didn't see coming.
Coming up,
I thought, oh my God, he's being set free.
so many years and so many cons. Was there about to be another